Welcome to the Down Dog Athletics Podcast, a competitor's guide to mental health and mastery, your resource for conversations around mental health and the mindsets necessary to master every area of your life. My name is Paul Klingen, and I'm a former Division I athlete that struggled with my mental health until I started yoga, which opened me up to other practices that gave me a balanced approach to my physical and mental health. The goal of this podcast is to inspire others to do the same, train and compete like an athlete, while also having the ability to slow down and practice stillness. When you can do both, you find balance and evolve into a greater version of yourself. What's up? Welcome back to the Down Dog Athletics Podcast. I've missed you guys. Almost 2 months off. It was partially an intentional time off just to focus on some other things. We had COVID going on, all the civil rights changes that are happening, and it felt good to allow those things kind of take the forefront. Also, being in quarantine and being inside, you just kind of hit that wall where initially I was super motivated and just wanted to go run around and do a bunch of things, and then it kind of hit like, man, this is a weird time, and I just gave myself the opportunity to honor that and honor that I wasn't feeling 100% mentally, and had some times of being kind of down and like, what's the point? We're just locked inside and everything's shut down, but I definitely feel like giving it that time and honoring it was the best thing that I could have done. I feel so much better not trying to push through that. And it was also just another season. I worked on a couple different certifications that took 50 or 60 so hours for me to get them. Got those, so I'm feeling really good. FRC and then a sports conditioning certification that they were really hard, and finally got them knocked out. I also completely redesigned my website and thought through what is my message going to be, and was able to use this time as a little bit of stillness to realign and feel really confident with where things are going. Was able to launch my Yoga Foundations program that I spent a lot of time working with a production crew, filming and producing, and it's out, it's alive, it's on the site. Head to the shop section. It's $30, and it's got 3 sequences where I take 3 individual athletes through it, total body, upper body, lower body, and then 3 meditations. The meditations are going to be reflection, gratitude, and visualization, which is kind of the holy trinity that I use with my meditations whenever it is that I want to focus on something. But I really took the time to design this for athletic people who have athletic bodies, people who have athletic minds, and it's something that I really tailored towards people that have that background, and maybe a typical yoga practice or yoga studio doesn't make sense to them, but I've been able to make it more accessible, which is really one of my goals with my business and with any kind of the yoga that I teach. I also spent this time redoing the website so that there wasn't 4 different websites to send people to. I've got over 21 now different workout videos of the Down Dog Athletics training method that people are going to a different site. Now it's all housed on the same website. I got the apparel and the merchandise back up between journals, shirts, sweaters. So if you're looking at that and it wasn't working, COVID shut down a lot of the production facilities. Now they're back up. And so we're firing on all cylinders, and I feel so much better and aligned. Haven't taken that time off. So if you feel like you always got to be go, 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 there's definitely times to push, and there's definitely seasons to go. But then there's also times where you got to plant, and you got to just water and be patient. And then eventually there is going to be time where you get to harvest that fruit. And man, it tastes so much better when you let it do its thing. And that's what we did. So we're back on the podcast. We got a guest today. Interviewed Josiah in the middle when COVID was starting, and so that's what a little bit of our conversation's about. But we also just talk about some really powerful things. One of the big things that we discuss is just the difference between motivation and inspiration, and how to make fitness more accessible. And one of the things I love that he talks about, toward the end of the podcast, I'll be sure and hang in there, but the 10-minute rule, where if you could just give yourself 10 minutes focused, dedicated time, whether it's in the gym, it's working, you find that you're able to go for so much longer. And we think it's so hard to start, but if you can just say, all right, I'm going to do my best, 10 minutes, you're going to find that you'll be able to go much longer, work harder towards stuff. We talk about how he built his online fitness business. He's one of the leaders in the industry in that online space. And I'm really excited to have him on. Super cool guy, super wise, super nice. So without further ado, let's get into it. Josiah, what's up, man? Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here, man. I'm freaking stuck in the house, and podcasting is a great outlet, dude. I love it.
It is. It's a good way to connect. I saw a really interesting post the other day where it was like social distancing, but then the social was crossed out and it was just physical. And so it's like we can still stay social. We can still connect and have that sense of community. We're just having happy hours on Zoom instead of happy hours down the street at the bar.
Dude, I love that. I actually need to have a beer or something pretty soon because it's been like, I think we've been in home now for going on about 11 days. I think we've been in quarantine. So
We're on day 20.
I think it's beer o'clock, man.
Do you follow Jocko Willink, or ever listen to his podcast?
I do.
So he gets on his
Yeah.
podcast and he's like, "This is episode 250," and that's how I feel every time we're in quarantine. I'm like, "This is quarantine day 20," and I'm like, "Man, I was juggling a toilet paper roll today in the kitchen." It's like the new World Cup, new Olympics.
Yeah, man, I feel the exact same way. We were watching. We have my wife's parents with us right now because we're a close family. We all live relatively close to each other. So we brought everybody together because we're like, well, if we're gonna be stuck in the house, let's just have everybody kind of together so we can cook food and all that good stuff. But they hadn't seen The Walking Dead before, and it's one of my favorite shows. So we started watching it, and I was like, okay, this is kind of weird because I was like, this is, there's kind of roaming the streets and there's not anybody out, and it just feels very eerie. And it's kind of what it is around here. Like I look out my window, it's like cars in everybody's driveway, but nobody's out.
Yep.
And people are getting cabin fever, and it's like you start to venture out, and you're like, "Ooh, I don't know, should I be outside right now?"
Exactly. That's a really good example. The other one I've thought of is in Game of Thrones when everyone was waiting for the White Walkers to come in that final season. I don't know if you watched it, but they're all this.
Oh yeah.
We know it's coming. We know we're about to get wrecked. It hasn't hit yet, but we're just all like hunkered down inside, and that's how I feel. I'm like every time I'm like, today's the day. Dude, it's like waiting for that giant snowstorm.
That is perfect. Someone needs to make a meme with the White Walkers and the people waiting and make it be like, the population or the people waiting and the coronavirus is the White Walkers.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel right now. It's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, what are the kind of workouts that you're sticking with these days now that you're stuck in home? What's kind of your go-to gym equipment?
So, it's weird, man. 6 months ago, I had this like straight up true story. I had this like weird feeling that I wanted to start doing more home-based training for both myself, my wife, and her parents who live near us. I want to start training them at our house. And I also thought, I've been getting a lot of questions about how to train at home from our clients and people who follow us and stuff like that, because I don't know, I feel like gyms are starting to overcharge, underdeliver, right, for a lot of people. So 6 months ago, I told my wife, I was like, look, we got to start building our home area because I feel like this is a big opportunity. And I just had this feeling. And so over the past 6 months, I've been slowly ordering things like dumbbells, kettlebells, things like that. And of course, with this hitting, it's been a perfect opportunity to start really using all of our stuff. So I had ordered a couple things for our new house, and one of which is this outdoor, it's like a pull up and dip station, but it's an outdoor one. So that it doesn't rust, doesn't have a lot of things that happen, corrosion, stuff like that. So I ordered that. So what I've been doing, man, is just busting out dumbbells, doing some, pull ups, doing dips, basic body weight stuff. Been really working on specific body weight movements that I suck at, like pistol squats. But honestly, man, I've also taken the time to explore more variety, because there's so many exercises. Literally, I tell people this all the time. You got the basics, right? The basic movements, but then there's so many cool things that you can do with dumbbells, with kettlebells, with just body weight. And honestly, body weight by itself is insane. I literally the past few days did mostly body weight, and I'm so sore right now because I've been doing new movements that honestly are never part of my routine. And it's been pretty cool, man. I've literally started creating a list of all these movements that I want my clients to know about, or I just want to keep in my my repertoire or whatever, just because you never know when you might need them. And we had this discussion this morning, we may never go back to the gym because we found that training at home is really convenient. I literally this morning got up, trained for 40 minutes, and I'm done for the day. Instead of driving, 15 minutes to my gym, getting warmed up, getting in, getting out. Next thing you know, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours have gone by, from 7 to 9 in the morning or 9 to 11, whenever I train. I trained this morning at 8. I was done by 8:40. And I'm like, oh, this is freaking sweet, man. I like this. I do think that home workouts, if you haven't done them before, or if you're transitioning from a gym to the home, it can be a little weird, right? Like you start to feel like, wow, there's something missing. Like, I don't know if it's the music or like, I don't know if it's like the people and like seeing other people train and like, I don't know what's going on. So the first week, even for me, because I go to the gym pretty regularly, the first week was tough because I'm like, I'm trying to get my bearings, trying to get in a routine. But honestly, though, put on some good music, get your family involved. We did a family workout yesterday. It was pretty awesome because everybody's kind of at different levels. And just start to just force yourself to get into that habit and like set a time on your calendar to get it done. And all of a sudden it starts to become a lot easier. So to answer your question, like I've been mixing it up. I've been doing, dumbbell focused. I've been doing body weight, working on specific movements, basically a shit ton of variety to get me like back into the groove of having a specific training schedule instead of going to the gym and knowing, okay, I'm going to do this every day or whatever. But it's been cool, man. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's happening, and it's there's nothing else we got in terms of options right now. So we're doing the most with the least.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing that's cool about body weight or even bands like resistance bands, mini bands, you get the bands with handles, is someone who's experienced can make it really hard. They know how to play with negatives. They know how to play with tempo. They can go 1.5 reps. All of a sudden you hold a 20-pound dumbbell in like a 20-second isometric, and that is zapping. Whereas you get someone who's like, all right, I'm just going to do body weight. Like that's really accessible because you're not putting 200 pounds on their spine. And it doesn't matter that their form's probably not the best. And so in a way, I'm kind of liking how this is making it a lot more accessible to people. And you have, the same people too who maybe are afraid to go into the gym and they don't feel like they're welcome in certain classes or it's too advanced or not advanced enough. And now they're able to just do it. And the only one there to judge is their cat, and they love their cat. So they're not worried about that. I think it's going to be really interesting. When you talk about gyms are overcharging, under delivering. Well, at what point are people like, all right, I feel comfortable 4 or 5, 6 months from now going into a gym, but no gym's going to want to be the first one that opens. And now you got to get people in. I was thinking about it the other day. In a way, it's like the NFL having every single player taken off teams. Now every single person is a free agent from a fitness standpoint. And so every gym, every trainer, instructor, they're all like looking at these people. And it's like, if I can create something that delivers, that is accessible, that is fun, and is online, all of a sudden I can gather a large portion of people.
Oh man, that's a really good point. Yeah, it's never been more important than now if you're a fitness professional or if you're in the industry to make fitness accessible for people, right? Because this whole thing is going to pass at some point, right? Or at least the panic is going to die down. People are going to get back to living their life, getting back into the routine. And right now, when people are sitting around their house thinking, what am I going to do? Who am I going to listen to? What am I going to do when this whole thing is over, right? Because they start to think, oh, I cancel my gym membership because I can't go. But what am I going to do when this is over? Who am I going to reach out to? Who am I going to subscribe to? Now is the time to start helping people build something that fits into their lifestyle versus just trying to market, your class, or just trying to market your special equipment, or market your, calorie burn, whatever crap. People are now looking for like support, accountability, understanding, right? Education. They need to know like, well, geez, what do I do if I'm stuck at home? Like, what do I do if there's food every freaking 5 minutes being, in my cabinet, in my refrigerator? Like, it's funny because, and not to go off on a tangent, but it just reminds me, because you have a really good point, that when this whole thing started to happen and people were like, oh man, I can't go to the gym, blah, blah, blah. I saw a lot of fitness professionals who were like, oh, you got no excuse now, dude. Like, you got all the time in the world to train and you got everything lined up perfectly to eat right and all this other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but people's routines are completely thrown out of whack. There's also a refrigerator now within 3 feet all day, 24/7. So in reality, I think it's actually harder for a lot of people right now, not so much to prepare meals and make sure you have healthy food and all that, but just to be in a routine and to avoid mindlessly snacking or mindlessly watching Netflix or sleeping in and missing their workout time when before they had to be somewhere at 9 o'clock. So they would go to the gym at 7 and shower and go to work. Yeah, they might slip up on their diet at certain times, but they were in a routine at least. Now it's like, oh my gosh, my kids are like this morning. I went out and worked outside in the middle of my workout. My two boys come running out like, full steam ahead. Like, they're ready to like rip shit up and like party outside. Right. And I'm like in the middle of a set. I had to chill for a few minutes and talk to them and like hang out with them. And like someone who's not into the groove yet, who doesn't enjoy training yet, or doesn't know what they're doing yet, and they're trying to follow a program and they're trying to be on track, little things like that can slip, help make them slip up. Right. And they're like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to go pour a bowl of Cheerios and like watch the news. And like 6 hours later, they're like, okay, the world's ending. I feel like I'm going to blow my brains out. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a tough scenario we're in right now, but this is the opportunity to jump in and be of service to people and say like, look, like my approach is always raising my hand and be like, dude, I struggle with the same shit you do. Right. I struggle with the Reese's peanut butter cups that my in-laws bring over. Like I struggle with the ice cream that my sister-in-law has in the freezer. I struggle with those things too. I've just learned how to work with them and work around them in a way that works for me. If you're interested, let me help you do the same thing. Right. And I think trainers and fitness people out there, instead of posting like your crazy freaking home workout, have you, jumping off of ceiling fans and like swinging from the door handles and shit, like start talking about like what you struggle with, man. You know what I mean? Because we're all in this together. Like the best things I enjoy reading right now are about other successful people and how they're struggling with certain things right now and learning about how they're dealing with it. Because then it starts to get in people's minds. It helps gives them, an anchor, right? It's like, okay, I feel like I'm all over the place. It's stormy. Things are going nuts. What can I latch onto that's going to give me some peace of mind, some stress relief, some consistency, and understand that nobody's going to be perfect right now. But ultimately, I can start to build something that when this whole thing is over, I don't have to then rearrange my whole routine again. I got something that can work now and 6 months from now when hopefully this thing is under control, right?
Yeah, 100%. The Reese's peanut butter cups, I will raise my hand for that as well. My girlfriend got a bag for the it's like 3 pieces, 130 calories. And I'm like, how many hills is that? Because I've been with social distancing, running on opposite sidewalks with a buddy. And
Nice.
trying to get workouts in as well. But you make a really good point where people had structure and they can't just get up out of a meeting and go grab a sandwich and then come back. And they can do that now on Zoom calls. In a way, it's almost like everyone's an entrepreneur now. And yeah, you have all this time to do whatever you want, but it's really hard for entrepreneurs and for people who work in desk jobs or whatever jobs. Now all of a sudden you have to look at your calendar and you got to time block that. Otherwise, it's going to just go wherever and it's going to be totally random. I always kind of use the analogy of food and money, where it's like, you give me $1,000 and you're like, all right, just make sure you save it for a month, and you don't know where that $1,000 is going, like it's going to disappear in 2 weeks. And that's
Totally.
kind of how like calories are, where people normally are like, all right, I have this for lunch at Evergreens, then for dinner, like I know I'm making this breakfast, I always have this smoothie at maybe at this studio. And now it's like, I just know that I got to eat 2,500 calories for the day, but all of a sudden it's 11 a.m. and they're like, those waffles were really good. I did that the other day. I was like, pancakes, absolutely. Why not? Like, it's the world's ending. But then at the same time, it's, you all have that Kickstarter. Like, okay, I can have those pancakes, but I can also make sure that I'm going to utilize them and do some like really hard hit training. And then you got to keep yourself accountable to
Totally.
that standpoint. I love what you talk about a lot on your page, your website, your podcast, True Transformation. If anyone hasn't figured that out yet through the intro, but you talk about like how to eat or maybe how to drink or how to fit things in and how to lose weight during this time. And I want to get into really your approach with how you work with clients, how you work from a nutrition standpoint, from a training standpoint, and from a mindset standpoint. One of the things that I love about fitness people, and you've talked about it a lot already, is we endured some sort of pain or hardship or suffering. And so we create a method or a brand or a business to help people cross that same bridge. So maybe that's where I'd actually have you start, is just like where you were when you were really struggling, and then what you did to help you get out of that, and then what you do to help clients navigate those same problems.
Yeah, man. So fitness has always been the lowest hanging fruit in my life. And it was why over the many years that I was pursuing my own fitness and health, I decided to create something for other people to experience what I experienced. And that was having something when things are out of control and things feel hopeless, having something to grasp onto. And it's crazy because what we're going through right now is just another opportunity for my company and others who do the same thing to say, hey, when things are spinning and there's so much uncertainty, the one thing you can definitely do is take care of yourself. And it started for me when I was a kid. I was raised in a big family. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. And when I tell people that my parents got divorced, people are like, what? Like 6 kids, they got divorced, and they did. And leading up to the divorce, it was many, many years of abuse, of chaos inside my home. It's actually why today I believe that I'm a very strong introvert, because I was the oldest of 6 little kids. And growing up, you can imagine, think about where you are now in quarantine, right? I don't, those listening who have kids or big families, it's loud, right?
Yeah.
Like the house is never really quiet until about 10 o'clock at night.
I
And then
had 3 younger siblings, so I get it.
totally get it. Yeah, you totally get it. So growing up, it was chaos. It was a military family. We moved every 2.5 years. I'm on the West Coast, the East Coast, lived overseas, lived all over the place. And my dad was in the Navy. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And not only was she a stay-at-home mom, but she was a homeschool mom. So she homeschooled all of us up until I was in 7th grade. So I tell you all that because I needed an outlet, right? I needed something to get me out of the house, to get me focused on something outside of my family, right? And for me, growing up as a little kid, it was sports. I played sports around the clock. I used to get in trouble because I wouldn't come inside. I'd be outside shooting baskets or running sprints or practicing my baseball swing, like literally around the clock. And I had this belief in my head that I was going to be a pro athlete most of my life. And so I was never like what you would consider to be a built kid. I was like skinny fat, but I could move. Like I had a really good athleticism. I still do. Like I can do athletic stuff, but I never looked like someone who would do something athletic.
Yeah.
So I was blessed with the ability, just wasn't blessed with the package, right? But anyway, so my dad, disciplinarian, but he was also an alcoholic. And he was very physically and mentally abusive, verbally abusive as well, where most of my like memory of him is fear of him, right? Not healthy fear, not like, oh, I don't want to disappoint my dad, right? It was more of like, if I don't listen to my dad, I'm going to get my ass kicked, right? So once I reached an age where I realized that his physical dominance could be something that I could overcome through fitness, it happened, let's see, it was kind of a perfect storm. It happened when I was in high school, and my parents were like literally splitting, like everything had come to a head. They had decided to split, and I was living with my mom. And I remember my brother was living with my dad, and my brother told my mom that my dad hit him and like all this crazy stuff. And I, in the moment, wanted to like fight my dad really like badly. And at the same time, I was a part of some sports teams with a lot of top athletes on the team. And some of these guys were very well-developed guys. Like they look like grown men and they're like 15 years old, right? And here I am, this like guy who's barely hit puberty, but I'm a good athlete. I just didn't feel physically capable of like standing with these people or my father. And I remember starting to hit the weight room in high school and realizing that I could start to get stronger and pack on muscle. And this would lead to more confidence because I saw my body changing. And all of a sudden the light bulb kind of came on. And I fell in love with fitness like literally overnight. I remember there was this, it's like a YMCA down the road from my house. It wasn't a YMCA, but it was like a YMCA. It was a recreational center. And it's, you got these all over the place now, but you walk in, the weight room is just like, a little freaking corner of the place, had some weights, and I would go in there after practice. I would go in, lift weights, run home, do my homework. And that was like my high school routine. And I started to like notice rapid changes, not just in my body, but in how I felt about my life. Right. I felt confident in school, started to talk to girls and like feel comfortable with that. I felt comfortable with my peers. Like, okay, these guys are starting to notice. Like, I remember guys going like, holy shit, man. Like, what are you on? Like they accused me of steroids back then. Like
Oh man.
it was crazy. Right. Because any kid could have done the same thing. I didn't have like superior genetics or anything. I was just so dedicated. I was like, I'm going there every day. I'm going to go there. I'm going to run home, eat whatever my mom made. It was, wasn't eating healthy, but I was eating calories. So I was adding muscle. Right. And my dad, I remember I wasn't living with my dad because I didn't want anything to do with him. And I remember he saw me one day, like when he was picking up one of my sisters to like go spend time with him or whatever. And he was like, wow, what have you been doing pull-ups or like, what's going on?
Yeah,
and I'm like, yeah, pull-ups, just fucking endless pull-ups. That's how you gain size. But it was cool because like he was a military guy. So he was like all around fitness, he was always jacked. I remember he still is jacked to this day, but like he had good genetics and he was dedicated to his, PT and fitness and pull-ups and push-ups and stuff. But he noticed and I was like, you know what, this is what I love. Right. And so I actually started to fall more in love with working out than I did with sports. So anyway, through a very dark period of time where family life was out of control, my sister tried to commit suicide when I was a junior in high school. And that was a really rough moment in my life. And I remember like going to work out and going to play sports and like feeling at ease for just a small blimp in time. And looking back, I mean, in the moments, obviously, like you don't realize the power that it has in your life until you reflect. So I get to college and to kind of wrap the story up, but that's kind of where it all started. But I got to college, went through some college, continued to play sports, but then I got hurt and I started lifting like all the time, and became a personal trainer in college as well. And then when I went into like the real world after college, I had a really rough time transitioning to being an adult. I started my own business, failed miserably, lost a lot of money, lost my house, lost a lot of things early in my 20s, and gained a lot of weight because of the stress. Never had really mastered nutrition. And I was just one of those guys that like, I'd eat a lot of food when I was stressed out and I would gain weight. And I still would go and say, okay, what can I, like in these moments of despair where I've lost everything, what is the one thing that I can do right now? And it was always taking care of my body. Like it was always like, okay, I'm going to just get back in shape. I'm going to get my ass in the gym, or I'm going to get my ass out there and go running or whatever. And so as I started to gain maturity and our emotional brain starts to finally develop, or maybe not our emotional brain, but our rational brain starts to go, okay, let me help you out here. Like you're a freaking psycho because you're a young guy and your brain is just not developed yet.
Well, I think that part of the brain happens at like 24, 25. 26.
Exactly.
Sometime there, like that's when like you hit like full maturity and the frontal cortex is like developed. Meanwhile, you're just like smashing Cheerios and dumbbells, and you're like, I don't know what's going on. But
it's working.
Yeah.
Doing 1,500 chin-ups every day. Anyway, it was just, yeah, exactly. Like I remember hitting my mid-20s, and it was like I was a different person. Like it was like literally looking back, like I'm like, who was that guy? Like I had no idea what life was about. I had no idea what to do. I had a work ethic for sure, but I just felt so lost. And but I never felt lost when it came to fitness. That's the thing. Like even though I didn't know everything, like I felt at home when I was working out. I felt like, okay, life's going to be okay. I can gain clarity. And so anyway, I decided in my brain when I met this guy. Well, I say met him, but I hired this guy online. His name was Plitt. He was this fitness model dude, and he ran this like online fitness, membership thing. And so I invested in his thing. It was like $10 at the time. And I just remember watching every video, like combing over his workouts, and like this guy like just inspired me, like because he was like so helpful and so like in love with fitness. And he talked about fitness the way I had always thought about fitness. I'd never been able to like speak it into existence or speak about how I felt about it, but I understood when he was talking about it that this is exactly what I feel. And when I started to get into his stuff, I realized, man, this is what I want to do. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know what to do or how to build a fitness company, but I had been a trainer and I knew enough to be dangerous in a good way. In the gym with helping people, I knew like how to put workouts together. I knew I had a lot to learn about nutrition, but I knew that if I just made sure that fitness was a part of my life, that my life would improve. And from that moment on in my head, I knew that this is what I was going to do at some point. I was going to help people use fitness to improve every part of their life and also teach them how to make sure that it's always a part of their life. Right. And, that was in my mid-20s and I'm in my mid-30s now. So it was over a decade ago. But I remember my first date, one of the first dates with my wife, I told her, I was like, she asked me, what are you going to do with your life? Because at the time when she met me, I was working, corporate jobs. I was doing fitness on the side, starting like a side hustle. And she was like, what do you want to do with your life? And I'm like, well, I'm going to run a full scale online fitness coaching business. And I'm going to do that full time. And she was like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but all right, whatever.
You want to get the bill?
Yeah. I was like, so about the bill tonight. Yeah. It was just like one of those moments where she was like, well, make sure you keep your job and everything will be fine. I'm like, yeah. So, and here we are today. Like we've got to that point, and it's pretty cool. But I always tell people, if nothing else in life, there's so many things that are out of our control. I mean, this is a perfect time to talk about it. We have a virus that is wreaking havoc on the whole world. For once, the whole world is basically in the same boat, right? Everybody wants to avoid getting sick. Everybody wants to keep their job. Everybody's worried that they don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. They don't know when this thing is going to be under control. What can we do? What are the things we can do every day? Like, what the hell can we do? And I hate to use this analogy because it's a tough one for people to swallow. But if you think about someone in prison, right?
I was going to say the exact same one.
Yeah, and it's like that's kind of what we're in. We're not in actual prison, but we're under more restrictions right now from a personal standpoint and from a government regulated standpoint. We don't have the options to go do whatever we want unless we want to risk getting sick or risk spreading it or whatever. And there's only so much we can do with our time. What's one thing we can definitely do every day? Train your body. Simple. Because it does so much for you. It's not just about how you look. It's about your brain. It gives you endorphins. It gives you clarity. It rewires your brain. It literally helps you think faster, think clearer. And it improves your self-esteem. It improves your energy. It improves your sleep. It improves your sex life. And it does everything. It's the lowest hanging fruit. Why? Because it's 100% free. You don't have to do or buy anything to access fitness. And I hate to sound like the Tony Robbins of fitness, but honestly, it's changed my life. Even if I didn't do it to make money, I tell people all the time, I would coach people. I would talk about fitness. I would put out programs 100% for free. Even if I had to go drive an Uber, which I might have to do if the world, gets crazy, I might have to go do Uber, right?
Yeah.
I'm cool with that because I will always do fitness. I don't care if I'm stuck in the jungle. I'll go run. I'll go climb trees. I'll do something to train my body because I know it's going to impact my mental health so much. And it's going to give me something to anchor myself in when things are crazy. So that's my background, dude. And like, I'm passionate about it because I feel like everybody can relate to that in some way, shape or form. And everybody goes through struggles. And the beauty of life, man, is that this virus is not going to be the only struggle that we go through. And it may get worse and it may not. It may get so much better that we feel like we're in utopia a year from now, right? People might be making so much freaking money. They're like, I don't know what to do with it, right? But guess what? Life will always bring more struggle and more uncertainty. That's just the nature of life. The good news is fitness will always be there as long as you use it, right? As long as you use it, it'll be there. If you don't use it, yes, it can deteriorate. You will not have the ability to go do things. I'm talking to people every day right now who are like, I can't believe I let myself get to this point. And here I am worried now because my body is not healthy and I don't want to get sick. And I can't train because I have injuries or whatever. Use it. Use the gift that we've all been given. It's never been a more important time than right now to do it, because it'll change your life. And not because you'll start a fitness business like me, but because you'll feel like you are the person you should be, right? You are taking advantage of the body and the health that you've been given, or you're improving the body and the health you've been given to be able to go show up for the people and the things that you care about in your life. And it's always something that you can put on your calendar that is going to be there. You don't have to go buy in or get a special membership or, have be born into a special family to practice fitness. So
Yeah,
that's it.
It's funny that you were using. I almost wonder if we heard the same prison story or analogy from the same source. I don't know if it was a YouTube video or what, but
Maybe.
if you get released from prison, is always how I phrase it. You get released from prison, you have nothing, not a dollar, not a person knows your name, but you got your body. You can train, and how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you apply the same principles of training and then you get a side hustle job, and then all of a sudden you start to make friends, and then all of a sudden everything bleeds into each other, and it started from that anchor and from that foundation of what you were just talking about. Fitness. Anyone can do it. It's accessible to anyone. And even this morning, like I was laying in bed, I was just like, oh, I'm so anxious. And one thing that action cures anxiety, but fitness in particular, it cures that. Like just get moving, and all of a sudden you're moving so fast, maybe not literally fast, but you're moving that you don't have time to think about those things. So from a mental health standpoint, I like to bring it around that it gives you that clarity. Went on a run the other day. I feel like I did like 7 marketing summits in my brain on how I'm gonna like do different things during this coronavirus, and it was all happening during a 60-minute run. And so I love what you were talking about, and I want to dig a little bit deeper on one of the things you talked about, where you said this guy, I forget the guy's name you mentioned, but you said he inspired you, and everything that you were doing was really like you were motivated to do it. But I've always found that there's a difference between motivation, right? You can have someone come and talk to you. Maybe you're listening to this podcast, like, oh, I'm motivated, I'm going to go work out. But how do you sustain that? And for me, that's always come from like inspiration, where that's in spirit. And now it's like literally in my soul, like I'm going to work out and we're going to do fitness for our entire lives because we're inspired. It's not just motivation. And so
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Motivation, man, like I hate to sound like a quote on Instagram or something, but motivation is totally overrated. It's an emotional state, just like anger, just like sadness, just like excitement. Oftentimes we're motivated when things are perfect, when we wake up and the sun is shining and the birds are chirping and we're like, oh, this is great. And then the next day it's raining and you're like, wait a second, I don't feel the same way. Well, that's because it's an emotional thing. Inspiration is something that can become a skill set if you practice how to get inspired enough, right? And if you start, because truth be told, when it comes to fitness or when it comes to mental strength, it's a muscle, right? It's a muscle that we have to learn how to train, and we have to be able to pull from when we need it. Inspiration is much deeper than motivation. Motivation is that gut reaction, that like 5-second, like, oh, that, for my single guys out there, oh, that girl looks hot, I'm going to go do some more arms, right? That's like that motivation. Inspiration is more about thinking like, hey, how do I want to be remembered? How do I want to live my life? Who are the people that I want to influence? What are the things that I need to do every day to be the person, man, woman, kid, child, whatever I want to be? Inspiration can come from many different sources too. It's not just internal. It's external and internal. Internal inspiration, I believe, comes from self-belief, where you do things long enough to where you realize I can actually do this, right? Because there's always that initial phase when you're trying to do something, whether it's working out at home, prep healthy meals, get better sleep, like whatever, where you don't necessarily believe you can do it because you haven't done it before, or you haven't done it long enough to believe you can sustain it. So the belief in yourself is lacking. Therefore, the inspiration is not as high, right? Because you're like, I don't really know if I'm even capable of making this happen. But then you look at somebody else who has done it, who can relate to you and your story. This is why I share my story so much, because I want other people to pull from me and say, oh, this guy who wasn't born looking like LeBron James, he didn't come from money. He was raised in a really crazy family. All the things leading up to where he is now probably would suggest that he wouldn't be successful in anything. But he made it, at least maybe not from, he's not Bill Gates, but like he made it in terms of fitness. He's in shape, or he maintains a healthy lifestyle. And I can relate to that. So I'm inspired now to create something similar, because I don't know if I can do it yet, right? I can't pull internally yet, because I don't even know, I don't know what a dumbbell curl is. I'm not sure if I can do this yet, but that guy did it. And I know that my story is just like his, where I've been through adversity like that. And I know I can at least pursue, because I'm alive and I'm here. I can do this because he did it, right? That's being inspired by other things. You could also be inspired by a list of other things. Could be something as simple as a song that speaks to your soul, right? Like when I'm running, I have a playlist when I don't feel like going for a run, that when I put on this music, it reminds me of things in my life that inspire me.
Yeah.
One of which is my son's favorite song. My son, who's 5, believe it or not, he's got favorite songs. And when I listen to them, I get inspired as his father. And I start to picture my son listening to that song and thinking about me. And then I go, well, what would I want him to think about when he thinks about me? And I go, well, of course I want him to think like my dad does what needs to get done. And so my dad's a role model. And so I'm going, okay, I need to go for a fucking run. Right?
Yeah.
That's inspired. That's being inspired. It could be reading a story. It could be seeing another person get results, like I said. But then the beauty of it is, once we get some results and we start to increase our self-belief, then all of a sudden our internal inspiration, like our internal inspiration account, starts to get full, right? And we go, okay, I know I can do this. I've done it before. And it's a simple process because now I understand it. And all I have to do is go out and execute it. And once I'm in the groove, then it becomes so much easier. And I also start to pull from the thought of what it's going to feel like after I'm done. Oh, it feels freaking amazing to finish my workout. I can't wait to pursue that feeling. And so I'm inspired to go do it, right? Motivation, man, often gets mistaken for inspiration too. Or inspiration often gets mistaken for motivation. People think, wow, like I was really motivated today because I watched my kid and he was doing a push-up and he learned that from me. No, that's inspiration. That's motivation and inspiration sometimes are almost the same, but motivation comes and goes. Inspiration is something much deeper inside your soul, inside your being, who you are, right? Like who you are as a person. Fitness then becomes like part of who you are. You know, people who have bought into it 100%, who do it every day, who not every day, and what I mean, I don't mean perfection every day. I mean, they just have a lifestyle that is on the healthier side. They now talk about themselves and they include fitness as part of who they are. People ask, what do you like to do? Oh, well, I like to work out. I like to cook some meals with my wife, or, like we like to go for a run. And people are like, oh, okay, so you're a fitness guy. Well, no, it's just like, yeah, I mean, it's who I am. It's part of who I am. That's what happens when you have this full bucket of inspiration and you start to realize the power behind fitness. But yeah, man, for me, like, once again, going back to what I said originally too, this takes practice, right? Like you have to consciously be aware of whether or not you're pulling from or trying to pull from like temporary motivation, or if like you're building something bigger and deeper and more long-term, right? Motivation is like, shit, I got to lose 10 pounds in 10 days. Motivation can come from fear in that sense, versus being like, man, when my kids have grandkids, I want to be chasing them around. I want to be the dad or the grandfather who's living to 90, who's taking the kids to the baseball games, still fully functional, still, people who come up to him and go, no way you're 90 years old, dude. No freaking way. You look like you're 60. Like, what the hell are you doing? What are you on, man? That's inspiration. But that takes practice, man. You have to be freaking deliberate about that. You have to be intentional when you think about, what am I pulling from today? Why am I training? And like I said, there's not one way to do this, man. Like, you got to explore. Like I have this thing on my phone. It's Google Photos. And Google Photos is psychotic because they literally take my photos and they create these videos without my permission of all my kids growing up. And they make me tear up and get all emotional. But guess what I do? I save them to my phone so that when I feel like I shouldn't work out today or I shouldn't eat right because I don't feel like it right now, then I'll watch that and I'll feel like a total asshole.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you know what? I got kids. I should probably work out. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I do miss workouts. I do eat like shit sometimes, all the time, actually, in some cases. But when I need something and I need to practice that habit of getting inspired, I have my checklist of things I can pull from.
Yeah.
Hope that makes sense.
Dude, there's so many things that you said in there where I'm like, wow, I do the same thing. Or like you said it in a way that I just hadn't like thought of it before. When you talk about motivation, when you're with like you're single guys, like talking to girls, it's like that 5 seconds where if you don't go do it, then you talk yourself out of it. And that's what happens all the time with the gym, where you're like, you see a picture like, that guy's ripped, I should work out. 3, 2, 1, and back to Netflix. And it's and we're not going. But it's like you got that 5-second window with motivation, but then there's inspiration where it's like, I recognize this resistance, but my soul is going to still pull me to that direction because I believe that I'm supposed to go work out, or I believe I'm supposed to go talk to that girl. And like, that's where it comes from. And I love too, where you said sometimes it is internal inspiration, where it's something that you believe about yourself and it's who you are. You can also pull from external things. I too have music or playlist that puts me in a state. I don't know if you've read like stuff on NLP where it puts me in a state where I'm able to draw on these resources of like confidence, happiness, joy. For me, it's like songs that I've heard at festivals and I'm like, wow, that was the happiest I'd ever been and like the most energy. All of a sudden I'm just like pulling in energy from around the world from these things I've done, and now I'm able to go run. But then I don't know what your take is on this, and I'd be interested to hear, but sometimes people think that they have to hit rock bottom. I like to visualize a pool. You have to hit rock bottom to catapult yourself up beyond the water where you feel like you're drowning. And I don't think that you necessarily need to hit rock bottom. You can create these little tiny external things where it's a photo of your kids, or creating a reason where it's like, I'm going to go work out because I don't want this to happen, right? I don't want people to say at 90, you look 90. And it creates almost this like little rock bottom trampoline where you're constantly like bouncing yourself off of. And so it's like, in a way, it's like an artificial rock bottom, but you create it and then you use that as fuel. So you're taking little things throughout the day. People always talk about having a why, which is like your soul inspiration. But then I also think you can create these little pockets of like anger or like fear, or like, yeah, it's maybe like a negative emotion, but it fuels you to get you back into what you should be doing. What is your take on that? Because I always want people to be positive. But then I also think like you can use the negativity sometimes because it's natural to have negative emotions. We shouldn't ignore them or suppress them. Just use them for good.
Dude, that's a perfect segue into a point that I wanted to make, because you're totally right. This is a lesson actually that it took me a while to wrap my head around this, because if you think about my life, I went through a few rock bottoms, right? Where my parents broke up. That was one. I gained a bunch of weight and I was really overweight. And then also went through some other like temporary rock bottoms with finances and relationships. And like, I started getting this habit of wanting to go through a transformation where I would want to be like, okay, and this happened to me recently. Okay. So like, I've never talked about this, and I was, it's funny. It's always like, you think, when am I going to talk about this? But this is a good opportunity. So I went through fatherhood, right? Had 2 kids in 18 months, literally back to back. I didn't have, my wife had them, but, becoming a dad is one of the most challenging things for a guy who never had a strong father figure. And so I started to almost create these moments of rock bottom so that I could go through a transformation. So I would be motivated or inspired to go through a transformation and come out the other side and say, look what I did. I hit rock bottom and I did it. I got out of it. Again, you almost get addicted to this, right? That's not healthy either. And it's not something I would recommend you do. You don't need to hit rock bottom to then go, oh, geez, I better do something about this. Here's what I've decided. Here's how I've changed and helped my clients tremendously. We're all going to go through ups and downs, okay? Life is definitely a roller coaster, even for the most successful, healthiest, best looking, wealthiest people on the planet. Life has ups and downs. And ultimately, when, we start to trend down in a direction, we have to have things that we do to quickly get us out of that without having to go all the way down, right? Like roller coasters are funny. If you think about a roller coaster, what's the most rock bottom you'll ever be? It's the beginning.
Right after the most fun you have. In your stomach.
Yeah, well, it depends, because if you drink before you go on the ride, then rock bottom hits right when you get off. But so the first drop in most roller coasters, like the longest drop, is the first one. People don't realize that. The first largest bottom is the first drop in the ride.
Yeah.
Most roller coasters, that's how they're built. Why? Because it sets up the rest of the ride. Everybody gets it out of the way. It's the anticipation. And then the rest of the ride is like, oh, okay, cool. This is fun. And there's some dips and ups and dips and whatever. So it's not to say there's no more ups and downs. There are. It's just that first big one is what sets up the rest of the time. So what I tell people is that we have to include some things that we do to keep us from going and purposely trying to hit rock bottom again, so that we can rebound up, or even use it as an excuse. Like, oh, I haven't really completely fucked up my life again, so I'll just keep going until I do hit that rock bottom, and then I'll change.
Yeah. I
was kind of on that path again when I had kids, and I was like, you know what? I got so much going on with work, with business. I'm letting certain things slide. And you know what? Once things get really bad, like with certain parts of my life, then I'll start to work on them. And I was like, no, I can't do that. Right. So I'm going to give you some things, some practical things that I do now to avoid that. I have one thing called the 10-minute rule. This applies for everything, not just fitness. This applies for everything. If you're in an area of your life where and I'll use something outside of fitness so that people understand how this works. So let's say a relationship like with your spouse or significant other is on the rocks, and you're avoiding it because you're like, well, once it gets really bad, that's when I'll start to really work on it. I'll start to hire a coach, or I'll go to counseling, or I'll read this book or whatever. Instead of that, the big thing that you need to do is 10 minutes of focused work on whatever in your life is not where it needs to be. Because once you start with that small bite-sized chunk, right? 10 minutes, I use 10 minutes because everybody can do 10 minutes of anything. 10 minutes goes by quick, and all of a sudden you have spent a much greater amount of time on that thing that you need to do. Could be a conversation that you're avoiding, right? Like me and my wife, let's say we have an argument, and I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna let a week go by, and then once it gets really bad and she threatens divorce, then I'll focus on it, right? That's not going to work, even though that's my addiction to transformation springing up and saying, okay, you've transformed before, bro, in other parts of your life. All you got to do is wait till it gets really shitty, and then you can turn things around. That's the false hero, right? That's not going to work. Instead, why don't I grind it out, 10-minute conversation with her and be like, here's how I'm feeling. Tell me how you're feeling. Let me listen to you for 10 minutes. All of a sudden, 2 hours goes by and you had the best conversation you've ever had. Same with the gym, right? People who say, oh, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to eat healthy. Like, it's really hard. I totally get it. Commit to 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I have the 10-minute rule with clients. Go to the gym. I want you to work out for 10 minutes. If at 10 minutes you feel like going home, go home. You did 10 minutes. But I guarantee more than likely you're going to do 15 or 20 or 30 or 45 or an hour, because that 10-minute was just that first hurdle you had to get over, that little dip, right? It was just that little dip. Okay, I got this. Instead of allowing yourself to crash and burn and then having to rebuild the pieces, right? The other thing I do, which is a more of a sobering thought, but it's a big one. And it's one that if anybody out there is struggling right now in anything in their life, I want you to sit down and I want you to write out what people are going to say at your funeral. There's more than likely going to be people who remember you, and they remember your life. And I'm not saying I want my kids to show up at my funeral and go, Dad had a 6-pack, and that 6-pack, man, That thing was
Took
on
best
point.
naps on it. It was great.
It
Would
was
roll my
shaped.
cars on it.
Yep. It was like, it was crazy, man. Like, but no, what I want is my kids to show up and say, my dad taught me a lot. He led by example. He was healthy. He didn't die young, because, he ignored his fitness. And if I did die young, I doing what I love to do, meaning I wasn't, out there chasing bullshit, or I wasn't out there, being a bad person, or doing things that I should, or doing things that just aren't serving me or serving others. And so every day when we have these like moments where we're like, oh man, I just don't want to do that right now. Or, oh man, like, I don't know what to do. Or, I'm not sure if I can do this or whatever. If you start to do those two things, the 10-minute rule and the funeral question is a little deeper. Obviously, it might take some introspection and like sitting
Yeah.
down, thinking about it. But that's why it's important to have both, because the 10-minute rule is like that quick, like, oh, okay, I got this. I'm going to go do this 10 minutes, see where I stand after that. The funeral thing is like, man, I'm really having a hard time getting in the groove. Like, what can I do to question myself here? What questions should I be asking myself? Those things combined, it's like a supercharged way of avoiding what we're talking about here, which is avoiding having to get to rock bottom to ultimately make a change. Because rock bottom sucks, man. And rock bottom is sometimes necessary. Like, I feel like a lot of us need to hit rock bottom in some areas to actually like get a grip, but ultimately it's something that could be avoided. And ultimately it's going to serve so much more long-term for you if you can start to build up confidence sooner rather than later. And start to get small wins under your belt. Like I tell people all the time, like, man, like, you might laugh, but if you can practice the 10-minute rule and go to the gym for 10 minutes, sometimes for some people, that's an enormous victory, man. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, dude, I haven't gone to the gym in freaking decades, and I just went for 10 minutes. This is crazy, right? Could be like, man, I haven't sat down and looked at my finances, and I spent 10 minutes on it, and I feel so much better. Like, and then the deeper conversation of like, man, the past month I've been really starting to fall into a hole when it comes to interacting with my kids and like how I speak to them and how I'm like handling them. And man, I asked myself the other day, what do I want them to say at my funeral? And man, I wrote down 10 things. Man, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to make a change. Like, moving, I'm doing it right now. No more excuses. You know what I mean? Versus like 2 years goes by and your kids are like, I don't even know who my dad is anymore. He's never around or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
you hit this thing at its head, right? You confront it. And that can save you from that rock bottom status.
Yeah. Wow, dude. I wrote those two things down, the 10-minute rule and what are they going to say at your funeral? Because I feel like those are things that I could use. Those are things that I could use with my clients. And I feel like you showed ways that what I was talking about where it's like it's positive and it's creating those little valleys of that roller coaster too. I think it's incredible. The last thing, just for I want to respect your time and before we pop off, is just like, what are you excited for, like moving, like either in your business, like what is coming up that you want to do to continue to serve people?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm excited about what the silver lining is of the current times that we're in right now. Because I think a couple things are going to happen. I think that ultimately people are going to fall in love with fitness right now because there's not much else to do in a lot of cases. And what I would encourage people to do, and I had this conversation with a client yesterday, he said, things are going good. He was like, man, I'm still on track. I feel great. And I'm not really sure like what I should be doing besides just continuing on. I said, look, this is the next step. And the next step is to be of service to others. And that doesn't mean like you have to become a fitness guru, but be a positive influence, right? There's a lot of negativity right now. I mean, there's so much. The media, if it had its way, would constantly be pushing fear in your brain to get you to tune into their show to see what's next. Oh my gosh, am I going to be okay? Let me ask Anderson Cooper. Like, come on, right? Like, this is all part of their agenda, and they're using it flawlessly, And so if you're someone who's not dealing with a lot of struggle right now, or you're falling in love with fitness, or you're on track, be a positive light, right? People ask, how do I improve my life besides getting in shape or learning how to eat better? Be a service to others. Super simple.
Yeah.
Show up, help somebody else, ask your friends, ask your colleagues what you can do for them. If you got your shit together, that's your job to go help other people get their shit together, right? So I'm excited about that because I think there's going to be a lot of people that come out of this with a newfound love of just taking care of themselves, being of service to others. I also think that this world is ultimately going to get back to what we do best, and that is terrible habits, not taking care of ourselves, eating too much, not being of service to others, which gives a huge opportunity for those of us who do care, who want to help people. There's going to be a lot of people to help after this thing is over, because the sad truth is that during this time, there are going to be a lot of people that fall into even worse habits and routines because they now have no routine at all. They have no work to go to. They're working from home in their pajamas. They're eating whatever they want around the clock. They're watching Netflix 4 times a day. Not to say those things are bad if controlled, but we're going to come out of this and go, what was I thinking? I had all this time and now I'm back to the grind. I'm back to my normal life. And I feel like I was really, really irresponsible with my time. So I need help. I need to take action. I need to get someone to help me. So for fitness professionals, there is going to be a massive opportunity now. There is one now, but there's going to be another huge one in the coming 6 to 12 months. So I'm excited about that because, like I said, the nature of life is ups and downs, and we're always going to have an opportunity to serve. In my business, honestly, not much has changed. Like, I hate to say, like, it sounds like we've been prepared for this. Nobody can prepare for this, but our message has not changed, and our service has not changed. What we did this past week was we made sure all of our clients had home workouts. Super simple. The next phase of this for clients is making sure they have easy meals, things that they can just throw together really quickly instead of having to go to the grocery store for 80 ingredients. But that's always kind of been the way we do things anyway. So It's not like we had to reinvent the wheel. But there's always ways to improve. I think one thing I'm doing in a moment where there is a crisis is I'm evaluating my process in different areas. So I'm evaluating our systems, maybe weeding out some things that we don't need, simplifying things. In all honesty, maybe over delivering too much in some areas and confusing clients, right? Thinking, oh my gosh, you just gave me 80 workout plans. What do I do? Like,
Yeah.
We don't want to do that. So it's a cool thing. And let me say one more thing too, before I finish, but I'm extremely full of I'm full of gratitude right now because I started my online business 7 years ago full time. And I'm thankful every day that I did, because now I'm in a place where I can still provide. I can provide for my employees. I can make sure that people I serve are taken care of. I couldn't do that if all I did was work in a gym right now. I mean, I could pivot, but it was challenging.
Yeah.
So I feel for those who haven't done that. But I'm extremely blessed. So when we're blessed and we're given so much, it's our job to give, right? So that's what I'm focused on right now. I'm focused on providing, showing up every day for people who need it. And it's always exciting to be able to do that, man. I mean, that's always really cool. I love creating. So creating people is awesome. But yeah, man, I mean, this too shall pass. We're going to look back and be like, that really sucked. That was like one of the biggest events that ever happened, but time goes by like that. And you're like, well, back to normal life. It feels like it was just yesterday we were talking about the coronavirus.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love what you talked about with people, like whether it's clients or just people in general, like how can I improve on my fitness, and it's sharing. And on social media right now, you can really curate negativity or positivity. I know there's a ton of meme accounts where I've unfollowed because it's like, oh, what time is it? Wine o'clock, or I mean, like the little cheesy things where it's like, how can we degrade as a society even more? Oh, here's like a one-up meme, and like that stuff seeps into your subconscious, and those become to be the thoughts that you have. And so if people are excelling at their fitness, and you said like, what's next? It's like, great, share. Like, your voice matters. A lot of people think that because they don't have a big following, or because they don't have a physique, or they don't have this expertise, that they can't make a difference. There's someone that is 2 rungs on the ladder lower than you, and all it takes is you showing your story, lowering your hands to help them climb up one more rung. And that can happen any level. Someone could just be starting their journey, but they're that one rung higher than someone who hasn't started. You know what I mean? So I love that.
100%.
That's the message. I like to end these podcasts with kind of just like some quick hitter fun topics. So are you ready?
Yeah, dude.
All right.
I'm ready.
You guys get one movie. You're watching it tonight. What's the movie you guys are watching as a family?
Oh man, wait. So is this with the family, or is this is this adults only? Because family is a little different.
Let's go adults only. Let's go adults only. Let's go just your favorite movie.
My favorite movie is Goodfellas. I don't know if that's cliche or not, but my reasoning behind it is that it's the one movie that no matter where or when or what part of the movie that it's on, I can watch it.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is, but it's just, I love it and it never gets old no matter how many times I've seen it. And if it turns on in the middle of the movie, I can sit there and watch it and I love it. So Goodfellas is number one.
Okay. And then with the kids, with the family.
So there's a movie out and it's called Onward, I think. It's on our list of things to watch. Disney released a movie on demand that's in the theaters right now. It's about two boys who bring their father back, who's dead, I guess.
Oh yeah. It's the cartoon animated one.
Yeah. So
like the staff.
That one comes to mind because that's next on my list when we sit down and watch a movie. We're going to watch that because I'm so anti-Disney right now because they're so hell-bent on destroying masculinity that I'm curious to see what this one looks like because it is about boys and their dads. So I'm hoping they do something positive for once because it's fucking sickening how they want to destroy men, but it is what it is. But I'm just curious to see it. So that's number one.
Okay. It's like you got a 5-minute AMRAP and you need as much energy as you can get. What's the one song that you're throwing on?
Oh man. Okay. So Return of the Mac. That's mine. That would always keep me going, dude.
Good. I love it. All right. So you just had the hardest workout. You've done like 2 hours, just absolutely smashed. Maybe it's a competition. What's the meal that you're crushing afterwards?
Chipotle burrito.
Chipotle burrito. I'm the absolutely same. Sometimes I do too.
Oh yeah, dude.
All right. Cool. Cool. Appreciate you sharing those. And thank you so much too for the time coming on and really just like inspiring me and just delivering like what I would put in the realm of like mental mastery, but also little things of mental health and just so many good nuggets of mindset, philosophy stuff, a lot of things for people to take away. Where can people find you on social media, website, before I let you go?
Yeah. I'll share my links real quick. One thing I want to leave people with, man, and this is something that I do almost for myself, but selfishly reminding people that I don't feel like I've mastered this stuff. I'm constantly in seek of more knowledge or at least better ways of doing this. It's like Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and Yoda is a creature. Nice. For those you got, dude, that's sick.
Yeah, I got TIE Fighter. It's Vader and Luke in Episode 4, Trench Run.
Dude, that's okay. You're a super fan. I'm a diehard Star Wars guy, but that's amazing. I love that. That's so sick. So I always think about Yoda and Luke Skywalker. I know it's like for people who don't like Star Wars, they're like, oh, what a dork. But like, it's totally like if you really think about it, it relates to life because ultimately, even when we think we know so much and we are skilled and we have the ability to do some really great things and we can talk, we can get on stage or we can write a book. It doesn't mean we've mastered it yet, right? The best way to master something is to understand that you're never going to master it.
Yeah.
That you can always get better.
It's a path of mastery.
Exactly, man. So I just want to leave people with this thought that, yes, I can talk about things and I know things and yeah, I can help you and all this stuff and I can help you really crush it. But ultimately I'm on this path with you. And we're all trying to get better and learn from each other constantly. Because when the day I die is the day I stop learning. Well, actually, it may not be the day I stop learning because I'm sure after I'm dead, there'll be many more things to learn. But in terms of where you can find me on social media, it's just at Josiah Fitness on Instagram, Twitter. I'm big on Twitter. So if you go on Twitter, I tweet all the time. And then Instagram and Facebook is just at Josiah Fitness. My podcast is True Transformation. It's our company, thetruetransformation.com. And we talk about things that are based around helping you transform your body, your life, and keep the results forever. And so, yeah, I'd love to connect. We do a lot of back and forth on direct message, putting out all sorts of content all the time, but happy to connect with anyone who would love to. So appreciate you letting me jump on the show, man.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. We'll have an awesome rest of your week. Enjoy the time with the kids and the family, and I'll catch you soon.
Thanks, brother.
All right, so before I let you go, you guys know the drill. Be sure and leave a 5-star rating and review on the podcast. I've been really excited with the ratings and reviews that have been coming in. You guys have been great. Let's keep it up. I want to try and get to 100 ratings by, let's say, August. Let's do it. We are 28 away. Let's get to 100 ratings. Appreciate you guys. If you enjoyed today's podcast, be sure and tag also Josiah and I. Let us know that you're listening. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys next time on the Down Dog Athletics Podcast.